in great detail the unbelievable story, history, and mystery behind the Washington quarter dollar from 1966 with the word liberty proudly struck on its obverse, a coin that normally holds the simple face value of just 25 cents but in very rare and unusual cases has been discovered with such unique errors, minting mistakes, and anomalies that its true worth in the coin collecting market skyrockets into the realm of millions, with one particular example reaching a staggering $12 million. A figure so astonishing that it captures the imagination of both seasoned numismatists and beginners who stumble into the hobby with a sense of curiosity and the hope that their own coins might hold hidden fortunes. And this journey begins with an understanding of the Washington Quarter series itself, a coin first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, designed by John Flanagan, featuring the portrait of the first President of the United States on the front with the inscriptions Liberty above and In God We Trust to the side, while the reverse displayed the American eagle with outstretched wings, and although the coin had undergone various changes over the decades, the mid-1960s were a particularly turbulent time for U.S. coinage because the government decided to end the use of silver in quarters after 1964, transitioning instead to a copper-nickel-clad composition that gave the coins a slightly different look, feel, and sound, which many collectors and citizens of the time noticed immediately, and by 1966, as part of the nationwide coinage adjustments to prevent hoarding of silver coins, quarters of that year carried no mint marks, an intentional policy to discourage collectors from removing coins from circulation, which adds another layer of intrigue when errors or anomalies are found because official policy was to create uniformity, yet imperfections slipped through, creating the seeds of rarity, and it is within these imperfections that fortune hides. For the 1966 Washington quarter that sold or is valued at an astonishing $12 million is not just any coin but one struck with minting errors so significant that they elevate it far above the standard millions of examples produced, and to understand why, we must look closely at the types of errors that can occur during the minting process, such as double dies where the design elements appear duplicated due to a misalignment in the hubbing process, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was not properly centered in the press, clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing a crescent-shaped piece due to a blank being cut from the sheet incorrectly, transitional errors where a coin is struck with a metal composition not intended for that year such as a leftover silver planchet mistakenly used in 1966 instead of the copper-nickel clad, broad strikes that lack the usual rim detail, or the extremely rare case of coins struck on the wrong planchet entirely, such as a dime or foreign coin blank. And any of these could potentially apply to a 1966 quarter, magnifying its desirability among collectors. Especially since official mint records state that no mint marks were to appear that year, yet examples exist showing traces of mint marks, ghost-like impressions, or remnants of earlier dies, leading experts to speculate on experimental strikes, errors overlooked by quality control, or even intentional mint mishaps. And the presence of these anomalies in combination with the transitional period away from silver means the 1966 quarters with errors are among the most desirable, and while most examples from 1966 are only worth their face value or perhaps a small premium if found in pristine uncirculated condition, the one coin that achieved a valuation of $12 million did so because it embodies a perfect storm of rarity, condition, historical significance, and demand, being preserved in flawless mint state, exhibiting an extraordinary and dramatic error, and surfacing at a time when the market for rare coins has been booming, with wealthy collectors willing to pay record-breaking sums to secure trophy pieces for their collections. And so when we talk about how a simple 25-cent coin becomes a multi-million-dollar rarity, it is this combination of factors, minting errors, unusual mistakes, the absence or ghosting of mint marks, transitional metal compositions, and immaculate preservation, that creates a coin so unique that it transcends its intended purpose as currency and instead becomes a work of historical art and a symbol of numismatic fortune. And now let us delve even deeper into the background of the 1966 quarter, for this year was part of what collectors call the clad era transition, and it came right after the great coin shortage of the early 1960s when silver coins were being hoarded, forcing the U.S. Mint and the Treasury to rapidly adjust production, often pushing machinery and dies to their limits, which increased the likelihood of mistakes and errors. And when we think about the number of coins struck, billions rolled off the presses, yet errors of great significance are 1 in a billion occurrences, making discovery incredibly rare, and when such a coin is authenticated by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, it receives a special label and designation that cements its place in history, adding to its allure and skyrocketing its market price. And beyond the mechanics of minting, the symbolism of the Washington quarter itself also plays a role in its popularity, as it represents not only currency but also national pride, the enduring image of George Washington, and the trust in American coinage. And when collectors stumble upon an anomaly in something so familiar, it sparks a sense of wonder, and that wonder is what drives bidding wars, pushes prices into the millions, and creates legendary stories that inspire new generations of collectors. And indeed, the story of the 1966 Washington quarter valued at $12 million has inspired countless treasure hunters to check their own pocket change, their old jars of coins, inherited collections from grandparents, or rolls of quarters from the bank, in the hopes of discovering a hidden gem. And while the odds are slim, the possibility alone makes the pursuit exciting, and the more we examine the details of such coins, the more we appreciate the complexity of coin production, where the smallest oversight can yield the greatest fortune. And this is precisely why error coins captivate the imagination, because they represent human mistakes. Immortalized in metal, tiny flaws transformed into masterpieces of rarity, and each time one surfaces, it reshapes the record books, as was the case with this 1966 quarter, whose astronomical $12 million valuation stunned even the most experienced collectors, reminding everyone that in numismatics, surprises always await. And beyond just the price, these coins carry historical context, as the mid-1960s also saw the U.S. Mint experiment with different minting techniques, coinage alloys, and production speeds, sometimes leading to faint mint marks that were not supposed to exist, die polishing errors that removed key design details, or planchets being struck multiple times, all of which increase collector interest. And so the 1966 quarter serves as a symbol of that era's turbulence, captured in metal, and preserved through time. And if we imagine the journey of such a coin, from leaving the mint in a bag of thousands, entering circulation, possibly being passed through countless hands in grocery stores, gas stations, or lunch counters, only to eventually be plucked out by a sharp-eyed collector who recognized something unusual, preserved it carefully, submitted it for grading, and ultimately witnessed its transformation from pocket change to a multi-million-dollar treasure, we realize that these stories are not just about coins but about history, about the randomness of fate, and about the value we as humans assign to rarity and imperfection. And that is what makes this 1966 Washington quarter dollar with Liberty inscribed such a phenomenon. And so for everyone watching, let this serve as both a fascinating lesson in numismatics and an inspiration to look closely at your own coins, because you never know what fortune might be hidden in plain sight. Today's exciting video, where we dive deep into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures that many people might have in their pockets or collections without even realizing their incredible potential value. And in this special episode we are going to focus on one of the most fascinating finds in United States numismatic history, the Washington quarter dollar from the year 1980 with the word Liberty proudly inscribed on it, a coin that on its face value is just 25 cents, but under certain circumstances, with particular errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies, this same coin has been evaluated and valued by collectors and experts at an astonishing $13 million, a staggering difference that makes it one of the most talked about coins among collectors, historians, and treasure hunters. So let's begin by understanding the background and history of the Washington quarter, which was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, with John Flanagan design depicting the bust of George Washington facing left on the obverse side and the majestic eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse side. And from its inception until now, the Washington quarter has undergone changes in composition, design, and minting methods, but the 1980 Washington quarter remains a particularly intriguing year because it represents the pre-statehood era design, when the coins were still made primarily from a copper-nickel clad composition rather than silver, meaning that for most people the coin itself in circulated condition was not expected to hold a significant premium. However, what makes the 1980 Liberty Washington quarter remarkable is not its standard mintage but rather the rare and extraordinary minting errors that slipped through quality control at the United States Mint. And as coin collectors know, errors in minting can turn an ordinary piece of change into a multi-million-dollar rarity. The 1980 Washington quarter With the $13 million valuation stands as a perfect example of this phenomenon, because it is believed to possess a combination of unique mistakes, including double die obverse strikes where the inscriptions such as Liberty or the motto "In God We Trust" appear doubled due to misalignment during striking, off-center errors where the design is struck slightly outside the planchet creating a visually unusual coin, planchet errors where the metal disc used was not of the standard composition or weight, and most importantly mint mark errors, because in 1980 the quarters were minted at multiple facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and in some extraordinary cases coins have been discovered where the mint mark was either omitted, misplaced, repunched, or entirely incorrect, and such mistakes exponentially increase the coin's rarity and desirability. And in this particular legendary case of the $13 million valuation, the coin is said to exhibit a combination of mint mark anomalies, double die features, and an unusual metallic composition, something that experts believe may have occurred during a transitional phase in production or a rare misfeed in the presses, and collectors across the world are fascinated by how such an error coin managed to survive, circulate, and eventually be discovered. Now when we analyze why such a coin would command such a staggering value of $13 million, we need to consider not only the physical rarity but also the historical context, collector demand, and auction dynamics, because in numismatics value is determined by scarcity, condition, provenance, and collector interest, and the 1980 Washington quarter ticks all these boxes. It is scarce because so few examples with such extreme mint errors are known. It is in high demand because Washington quarters form one of the most popular series among American collectors, and it carries historical intrigue since the 1980s was a period of great change in U.S. coinage leading up to the state quarter program introduced in 1999. Furthermore, the provenance or the story behind the coin adds to its allure, as collectors love to know the journey of the coin, how it was discovered, and how it managed to fetch millions at auction, and in the case of this quarter, its discovery sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, with stories circulating about a regular collector who stumbled upon it in change and later saw it appraised and auctioned for millions, which fueled the dream of thousands of everyday people checking their pockets for a similar find, and this is why the tale of the 1980 Washington quarter valued at $13 million continues to inspire fascination, because it represents the magical possibility of finding unimaginable wealth in ordinary change, beyond the monetary value. The coin also provides lessons about minting processes, quality control, and the way tiny errors can completely transform a coin's destiny. Now let's go deeper into what kinds of errors have historically made coins like this so valuable, starting with double die errors which occur when the coin die used to strike the planchet has been improperly manufactured, causing the inscriptions and images to appear doubled, which makes the design look bold, shadowed, or duplicated. And collectors are always eager to acquire such coins because the visual impact is obvious even without magnification. Then we have off center errors where the strike is misaligned resulting in part of the design missing, often leaving a crescent of blank metal. These are extremely popular as they show the striking mistake in a very dramatic fashion. Another type of error is the clipped planchet where the metal disc has been cut irregularly leaving a bite-like missing section, adding to uniqueness. Then there are transitional planchet errors where the wrong metal composition is used, for instance a quarter struck on a leftover planchet intended for a different coin denomination or year, and such cases